I am a directly impacted person. I am a community organizer for EXPO, which is Ex-Incarcerated People Organizing. Today I'm here to show my support for any initiative to raise the age of juveniles going into the adult system from 17 to 18. I'm also here to support treatment alternatives and diversions. At the age of 17, I was waived into the adult court. Almost 30 years later, I am still recovering. Part of the petition that put me forth into the adult court wanted me to seek AODA counseling and mental health treatment. After I was waived, it didn't happen. So they dropped the ball. I suffered the same similar traumas that led me to a waiver after I was waived. So the physical abuse, the sexual abuse, the violence, the mental, the emotional, I still incurred that. So the waiver didn't protect me. The waiver exacerbated it. So today, I ask all of you, matter of fact, all of you have families. Matter of fact, all of you have faith. So I ask each and every one of you, which one of your kids or your grandkids, which one would you pick to throw away? I am a throwaway kid, but I'm back here today as a prodigal son to say there's a better way. I will work with anybody, including my organization that I represent, to get any legislation passed, whether it's treatment alternative and diversions or raise the age, whether you pull it out of the budget as a separate bill or you keep it in the budget. That's how important it is for me. For my grandbaby, who is 10 right now, when she becomes of age, I don't want to see her get waived. I know each and every one of you would do anything you can do to prevent that horror from happening. So please either keep it in the budget or seek bipartisanship to get it passed somewhere down the road. Thank you for your time.
I want to talk to everybody here about prison. We all know that this committee is going to pass a budget that wastes a ton of money on new prisons. A majority of Wisconsin has voted for less prison. We are for alternatives for decriminalization of drugs, for education and mental health support, but these people don't care about what the majority of the people in Wisconsin want. If they did, they wouldn't be in power in this gerrymandered way.
Direct your comments.
I don't want to talk to you, you're a fraud. I want everyone here to understand what prison is really for. It doesn't make us safer, it doesn't rehabilitate, it doesn't help. Prison is about letting these people control the rest of us. 15, fitting us into an exploitative economy. Wisconsin has been robbed by economic policies that cut workers out, closing factories and mills, ripping off both the farmers and city workers to make business owners and mega corporations who are friends of these people rich. Prison is a threat that looms over all working people in this state. When the constant stress of low wages and economic neglect breaks someone down and they resort to crimes of survival or succumb to mental breakdowns or addiction, this state does not offer help, it offers prison. We know this committee will not fund education. We know they will not help people in economic distress. They won't help people whose health is in jeopardy. They just want us to endure, to keep working for less, to keep making their rich friends richer. When we can't, that's when they have something for us, something that they are happy to spend millions of dollars on, prisons. So I want every working person who hears my voice to recognize that when healthcare and education get cut to fund prisons by this committee, what they are doing is threatening us. They are trying to keep us down. And so I say next time, we need to fight back instead of begging.
So you guys think you can get away from us? Well, you can't. You try to hold these meetings at times where privileged people can take off work and those who've been systematically oppressed can't. Just take a look around the room and see how many people look like me. See how many people are black and brown and have the ability to be here today. It's not that they don't want to, it's not that they don't have time, it's that they have to work, okay? So you can say, let's go where the rich are. Well, I'm coming here too. We're not deterred by the conservative, selfish money hoarders you invite to come stack the deck in favor of your pet projects. This isn't over for you, and it's not over for the 20,000 people I'm here to speak in favor of. The 20,000 people you want to lock up in prisons and waste taxpayer money keeping there. We're going to continue to make you look stupid and selfish, yelling at you even though we all know you don't care. The people in this room and the people listening on TV aren't stupid. They're just using the only method you've given them to try to make a difference for this state. Stop putting people in prisons. Stop wasting the time of our own for your own personal gain, and stop acting like this process is legitimate. Everyone else here, and I'm going to direct this to the forefront because apparently I can't talk to other citizens. Everyone here, if you want money from these people, tell them to take it from the prison system. Okay, they spend $1.7 billion on criminal justice and prisons to lock away 20,000 people. 20,000 people. You do the math. How much of that bloated budget are you asking for? These fucking politicians aren't here to listen to you. They don't care about your needs. Look at this sour face. Look at that one. Look at that one. They don't want to wear masks because they don't want to care. They don't care to keep us from dying. Okay? They're here because they have to be. Don't thank them for giving you the time of day. Don't pander to them. Make them squirm. Make them think you're incensed because you should be. Our lives, our money, our futures are in the hands of these shithead money mongerers who want to ignore you no matter what you say or how you say it. Tell them enough is enough. Give it to them hard, and don't stop today.
Hello, my name is Fiona Lindsay. I'm a member of the Stout Student Association. I ask the $5 million plan to partner 3 UW campuses with 3 state prisons be funded, giving 300 to 500 inmate students the opportunity to pursue their bachelor's degree. Expanding educational opportunities in prisons is beneficial from an economics, business, safety, and equity perspective. As colleges across the state struggle with the declining enrollment, prison education programs help them open the doors wider and recruit more diverse students. The United States has the highest incarceration rate in the world, and an overwhelming burden of contact with the system has fallen on communities of color, especially African Americans. African American adults are 5 times more likely to be imprisoned than white Americans. This country is supposed to be built on second chances, but currently those opportunities end at the prison system. This is about repairing those communities that have been destroyed by this disproportionality. About 95% of prisoners will be released to their communities at some point. Unfortunately, many people return to prison because they are unprepared for a life on the outside. Nearly 70% are arrested again within 3 years of release. This harsh cycle is both costly for inmate and state. Studies show every $1 spent on prison education saves $5 on reincarceration rates. They also say inmate education programs can disrupt the intergenerational cycle of poverty and incarceration. Inmates who participated in prison education programs had 43% lower odds of being reincarcerated compared to those who did not participate. Finally, the higher level of degree earned through these programs is shown to be directly related to recidivism rates. I ask you to support the prison baccalaureate education program. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Evan. I'm an 8th grade student. My mom and teachers put me up to testifying today, so I want to talk about how great my school choice experience is based on only knowing my parents and the other people in my school. It is vital to me, an 8th grade student with an infinitely small worldview, to appeal to you all as a child. This will lend credence to my damaged ideology about supporting a voucher program that I do not understand because, again, I am a child. Maybe one day I will regret having said this when I learn more things, but as for now, I speak because it has been encouraged by the adults in my tiny community, and I have never met students who could talk to me about their different experiences. Anyway, prisons, am I right? We don't need those. We don't need them because the money that we spend on them, we spend on containing people who aren't dangerous, could go to anything else, anything anyone else here asked for. We have fun, right? To me, and to all of my weird conservative dorks in the audience, Americans for Prosperity, empower people, not government prisons. You obviously agree with this because you are principled and hate government spending. This $1.7 billion going to the prison system. That's too much. Thank you for agreeing with me and for coming to testify about defunding prisons and the police. In conclusion, this process sucks, and it sucks that we have to come and beg for small amounts of money to help our communities in ways you don't care to understand. See you next time.
Hello, my name is Chadwick Lane. I'm a recovering addict. I'm here in support of Expo. And as a recovering addict, I've seen all sides of the coin. how being inside, just doing time, if you will, has done nothing but make somebody against the system, against belief in the system, and continues the problem of addiction. I am myself directly affected by this addiction, and I'm here in hopes to support the TAD for $15 million to hopefully get some kind of diversion. Like I said, I've been through treatment too, and just being around that culture of the positivity, of the hope, rather than being around the negativity of just doing the time of the people that feel given up on, I feel is really just a great difference, a great impactful difference just on the curve of what's talked about. And not to mention all the cost that it costs just to keep people just incarcerated. We are people too. We have hopes, dreams, and ambitions just like anybody else. But we just learn to deal with things in our own ways, and to have hope for the future there's no other way to have treatment, that treatment setting. I know there are some things in place, and some things that are in place are good, but they're not as available as readily to every single person or every single situation, depending on where you're living, if you're homeless, or in different times, different things of homelessness. I feel it can be greatly impacted too, to really bridge that gap to normalcy of life, that there is hope for a better future instead of the darkness. Again, here with Expo, in hopes that I reach some people, because this is not something that's generally talked about from my perspective, from a guy who's been in, been out, and been on all around. And I'm just hoping to kind of bridge that gap between us. Like, I'm standing here proud. I own my own business. I have multiple cars, kid on the way. I have normal things going on. Like, we're not so different. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Kyle Brown, and I'm here on behalf of Expo, Ex-Incarcerated People Organizing, and also individually as a person diagnosed with mental health disorders and a drug addict in recovery. About 2 years ago, I was released from prison after serving a sentence for a drug-related conviction. Re-entry to the community was a struggle. I relapsed on heroin and overdosed 3 times before I was arrested again, and once again incarcerated. I faced going back to prison for 20 months. I asked my agent for treatment and was denied. I was told treatment wasn't a suitable option for me. I pleaded with my attorney to get treatment, and by the grace of God, I was accepted into treatment court. Today, I'm 15 months sober, raising my 3 daughters, attending college, and very active in my community. I'm dedicated to helping people find their way in recovery and rebuilding a life after incarceration. We're seeking an additional $15 million per year in the biannual budget for treatment and diversion programs. It's evident that mass incarceration has proved to be ineffective. We need to expand and create more programming to treat mental health and addiction in our communities rather than investing into DOC and the prisons. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amy Nesha. I'm an addict in recovery. I'm grateful for the opportunity I have today to speak with you about the importance of treatment and diversion programs in our area. I'm recovering from heroin addiction, and I can thank the Chippewa County Recovery Court program for the sobriety I have today. If I had not been introduced to the program while I was in jail, I would have sat my time only to be released and going back on drugs. This is because there is a deeper issue going on inside of addicts that incarceration will not fix. The program I am in supported me and provided me with the resources that I was desperately in need of. Resources like housing, transportation, counseling, accountability, and many other things that addiction had taken away from me. When I was in jail, I prayed for the resources to help myself because, in all honesty, I did not want to use. I wanted to better myself, but I had nothing but the clothes in my property. I think this is a dilemma that many addicts face. Using is a way to escape the unfortunate reality addiction has caused us. Quite the oxymoron. But given the resources by Recovery Court, I have built up an entirely new life. I ask that you consider how many addicts like me could change the world around with treatment and diversion programs, meaning a safer and drug-free community for all of us. This is where our focus for funding should be in order to tackle the ever-growing drug dilemma. I am asking for an additional $15 million per year for the biannual budget for treatment and diversion programs. Thank you.
Afternoon. My name is David Carlson. I'm a resident of Eau Claire. I'm here today to speak on why I believe funding in the amount of $30 million over 2 years must be allocated to treatment alternatives and diversion programming. I work as a peer support specialist, a mentor, and a community advocate. These have become my occupations because of the experiences I've had in my life, matched with my desire to serve my community. Growing up, I lived under a constant state of fear and trauma, and I was incarcerated in juvenile facilities throughout my early teen years. I managed to turn my life around and join the Wisconsin Army National Guard in 2003. I was deployed twice to Iraq, the first time in 2004 and the second in 2007. Upon my return from my second tour, I was broken, mentally and emotionally. I coped by drinking alcohol and using other substances. The downward spiral I experienced after my combat tours resulted in my eventual incarceration. It was in prison that I reached the lowest point I've ever experienced in my life. The dehumanizing nature of being strip searched, corralled around, and spoken to as if I were unworthy of respect, coupled with the threat of violence due to high stress levels and untreated mental health challenges inflicting nearly every individual who was incarcerated. If not for the support of my loved ones, I would have lost all of my humanity. I succeeded in my second chance at Veterans Court after being released from prison. I also went through intensive therapy, both outpatient and inpatient at VA hospitals. As I became well enough to reflect on my journey, I realized that the criminal justice system tears people down and never provides the opportunity to build them back up. If not for my military benefits, I doubt I would be before you here today. I ask that you dedicate at least $30 million to treatment alternatives and diversion funding over the next 2 years so that others who do not have my VA benefits will have the opportunity to work towards mental and emotional wellness in their lives. Those who have experienced the most trauma and made some of the worst mistakes often become the same people to have the biggest positive impact on others. Our communities are being deprived of the immense potential of so many people locked behind prison walls. I thank you all for your time.
I feel like we're cousins. I mean, I've been touring the state with you all, having these conversations. And so I didn't prepare any remarks, but what I want to say to you all is we all know what the problems are. We don't need to, talk until we're blue in the face about what the problems are. But what you've heard today are viable solutions to the problems that we face as a state. We have an over-reliance on incarcerating people for addiction, mental health, etc. And you all can fix that problem by looking at the proposals that the governor has put in his budget. You may not agree with all of them, but there are some good proposals in that budget that you all can put forth that will move us forward as a state and save the taxpayers millions of dollars. People are hurting because they are impacted by this system. We've traveled all over this state and we've had conversations with individuals in each of your districts. We have members, supporters, and volunteers, I assure you, in each of your districts who are impacted by the system of mass incarceration, who are impacted by the opioid crisis and are in need of service. And you all can fix this problem. You all have been given a job to go to Madison to come up with ideas to fix this problem and to move our state forward. This picture, this is our state surrounded by prisons. Texas is addressing this issue. They've closed prisons. Oklahoma, Louisiana. Why can't we get it right? We can have difference of opinion, but we are fools if we allow those differences to make us fall out. And so in closing, I want to read something to you all that Brian Stevenson said. He said, "We got to find ways to get closer to the poor, the neglected, the abused, the excluded, the marginalized, because in its proximity to these communities that we hear things that we will not otherwise hear. We will see things that we will otherwise not see." And so you are all hearing from individuals today in previous weeks of what you may not have heard in other settings. So please go back, consider everything you've heard, and put forth a budget that reflects the values of all Wisconsinites. Thank you.
Thank you. It's hard to follow Sean. My name is Patty Feedy and I live in Eau Claire. Last September, my son was robbed and brutally assaulted. He was taken to the hospital in an ambulance and had his blood-soaked clothes cut off of him. His eyesight is still not fully returned in his left eye. It was a mother's nightmare. My initial reaction was that I wanted the perpetrator arrested so that he could not go after my son again. But more than that, my gut reaction was that I wanted him to pay, and I wanted some sort of revenge. I'm not a violent person. I would not inflict violence on someone else, so the logical response is that I wanted him to go to prison for as long as possible. But I'm in a unique position. I'm a clinical social worker. I've worked as a psychotherapist for nearly 20 years. I've worked with many individuals and families who are involved in the criminal justice system. I've witnessed how incarceration devastates families and communities. More importantly, I'm acutely aware that incarceration rarely helps people. Yes, I want the man who brutalized my son and hurt my family to be held accountable, but I absolutely do not want the criminal justice system to make him worse. That level of violence is not normal and was not created in a vacuum. At this point, I know nothing about that young man other than that he is only 19 years old. What I do know, because I work with this every single day, is that the main contributors to violence are mental illness, addiction, and prior trauma. What is important to note is that these three are all treatable, and yes, treatment costs money. I've worked with individuals who've been incarcerated and then bettered their lives after release. I've worked with individuals who committed crimes and were given second chances due to deferred prosecution programs. Absolutely, that is possible, but those individuals had resources. And for most people, the source of their resources was their family. Having family support is an incredible predictor of success and reform. However, not everybody has that. That is where the state can step in and provide the necessary resources through therapy and treatment. Incarcerated people should have access to a variety of treatment, but it's more cost-effective and less detrimental to provide those resources in the community. I'm asking that more funding be allocated for deferred prosecution programs and restorative justice programs. Although I initially wanted some sort of revenge for the violence that my son endured, our community would be best served by prevention. Our community would benefit most by that young man receiving treatment so that he does not perpetrate violence onto another person.